welcome. So glad to have you here to the Gem of the North Shore. How many are glad to be in Terrace Bay? We're here to celebrate our wonderful past, or commemorate our wonderful past, and celebrate our bright future. We've gathered far and wide, and I've heard as far as Houston, Comox, BC, and even as far as Australia. People have come to be in Terrace Bay this weekend. Thank you so much. We've gathered to remember our founding, our building, even our survival, and what I believe now the thriving of our community. The Council of the Township of Terrace Bay and the 75th Anniversary Committee hereby acknowledges that we are in the Robinson Superior Treaty Territory, and the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Métis people. We're now going to invite Sophia Cooper to lead us in O Canada. Terrace Bay, we are proud of you, Sophia. Miss Cooper here was first place in the best in class for pop vocals at this year's Niagara Festival. Please put your hands together as she comes.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, with all of us command, quand embrasse parte les pays, il s'est porté la croix, ton histoire d'une épopée des plus lions exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you.
Well, if you don't know who I am, my name is Gary, and I will be the MC for this celebration this afternoon. Here's some well-known facts that are also 75 years old. The well-known Canadian-built aircraft, the de Havilland Beaver, took its first flight in 1947. Also, in the year 1947, our Queen, Elizabeth II, announced her engagement and later on marriage to her husband, Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten. Notable people born in 1947, David Bowie, Judge Joe Brown, Tom Clancy, Elton John, David Letterman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Terrace Bay's own Brian McInnes. Fun facts for you. Celebration, of course, would not be possible without the amazing people standing here behind me, particularly on this side of the stage. I'd like to recognize our 75th Anniversary Committee. We have Allison Beatty, Deanna Cooper, Joyce Gilmore, Emily Joubert, Mandy Monk, Horst Prager, and our council rep, Paul Malashewski, and Stacy Moffat, our special projects coordinator. Where if Luke, did he make it on the stage? He did not. Luke is over here. He's going to give you a speech on Sunday. And of course, Michelle Malashewski. We applaud these people this afternoon. I don't mean to put my back to you, but I'm going to talk to these guys for a minute. I also want to recognize our mayor and our council for your dedication and hard work for trusting us to deliver a successful event. Also, if you see anybody in an orange vest, chances are they work for the township. They have put in countless hours. And by the way, it is Rael's birthday today. And he came to serve you on his birthday. So please buy him a drink tonight. Give him an extra pat on the back. Huge shout out to our sponsors, in which you can find in our 75th brochure. This event in partnership would not be possible without them. And finally, we thank the residents past and present for making Terrace Bay the community it was, the community it is, and the community that we dream about. I'm thrilled today to welcome Canada's Indigenous Services Minister and our Member of Parliament, the Honourable Patty Hajdu. Please welcome her now at this time.
Well, thank you very much, Gary. Bonjour. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour. It's such a pleasure to be with you here today on the territory of the Robinson Superior Treaty with contributions of so many Métis, including, I think, our young O Canada speaker. Je suis très heureuse d'être ici avec vous tous pour célébrer cet événement. I have this whole speech of all the things that my team would like me to say, but first I just want to say just what an incredible welcome I have always had every time I come to Terrace Bay. And I was thinking about those early days in 2014 when I was a federal candidate running for the very first time for any elected official position. And of course, I live in Thunder Bay. I come from Thunder Bay, but the riding of Thunder Bay Superior North, as you know, is vast and it incorporates many communities. And to come into a community where you don't really know that many people, you haven't really spent a lot of time, but you're asking people for something, you're asking for people to trust you, is a really scary thing. It's kind of a scary moment to come into a community where you're not from there, you don't have roots, and you don't have the history. And every single time I've come to Terrace Bay, I've been welcomed with open arms, and people have taken the time to tell me about the history of the community, to tell me about some of the challenges they've had, you've all had, and some of the opportunities and incredible resilience of this community as you've gone through major changes in the past 75 years. It was a real pleasure this morning to have coffee with some of the seniors and not seniors at the Senior Center. Gary was there. There were many other people behind me that were there to talk with people that were from out of town, that were sharing memories of what it was like to grow up in Terrace Bay. One fellow, Norm, was telling me the story about how he was born here, but in fact his mom was, her parents were working on the hydroelectric dam, and they lived in a little hut, and they watched the building of Terrace Bay. They watched the foundations being poured for those very first 15, 20 houses that ended up being the bedrock of the community. And he was sharing his story of growing up here and the friendships he had, and he had come from a long way away to celebrate the 75th and talked about the many summers that he had spent here. These are the kind of memories that people have all along the North Shore and here in Terrace Bay, of community, of being grounded, of course, of the challenges that Northern Ontario has faced, but the incredible successes that we've also seen, especially when we pull together. On that note, I won't be here tomorrow for the opening of the amazing waterfront facility that was such a vision so many people, including the many council members behind us, worked on, and that was obviously big contributions from the federal government. But what a treasure. I was there at the Surf Festival last year. Isn't that incredible that we have a surf festival in Northern Ontario run by young people from this area, bringing people from the outside to see the beauty of Lake Superior. Yesterday I was in Marathon. I met with the people that are working on the Group of 7 tour and the hiking that's happening along the way. We have the marine conservation area. So much has happened in our region that we can be proud of. I'm just super proud to be the representative here in this community all across Canada, talking about Terrace Bay, talking about Northern Ontario, talking about the importance of small and rural communities to the fabric of our country. And that is going to be my continued focus for as long as I have the privilege to represent us, to make sure that rural and Northern Ontario communities, towns, townships have the same opportunities as large cities to reach their full potential, to see for themselves the realization of their dreams. So thank you for including me today. It's just an honor to be here, and I'm looking forward to chatting after. Oh, and I also have a certificate. I always forget the certificate, but I do have a certificate to present, I assume to the mayor. It would make sense to acknowledge the 75th anniversary of the Township of Terrace Bay. So to this incredible, hardworking man, thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Patty. For me, I remember when Patty first come here, and I think it was the same festival going on, the Lighthouse Festival, and I got to talk with her a few moments, and I thought, She's okay, but she's got to polish up a little bit. But she got my vote, and I'm glad I voted for her.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Our next guest here in Terrace Bay, for the very first time as our Member of Provincial Parliament, we congratulate you on your recent election victory and say thank you for serving. Please welcome me and joining all the way from Queen's Park and Thunder Bay today, Dr. Lise Bourgeois.
Bring this down a little. Thank you very much. I can't tell you what a thrill it is to be here today and to be here as your new MPP. I've been in Queen's Park for 2 weeks now and answering the phones probably since June the 3rd. And it's really an honor, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to represent people in this vast riding. I first became acquainted with Terrace Bay actually as a paddler, so I do have a life as a kayaker, and have paddled most of the North Shore, and I think the very first place I went to was the Slate Islands, which is stunning. And I have been there again and then had many reasons to come through this community. I think today I've had more fun than I've had in months in the last 2 hours. You have so many wonderful vendors here, so many wonderful people. It's an honor to be here. I also, like Patty, I would like to give a shout out to the surfers and also the witch crew. So I saw on Facebook there was a group of women surfers who all dressed up as witches and went out on Lake Superior. I thought that looked like so much fun. And if I have the chance, I'm coming back in the fall. Now maybe Patty will be back too. And I'm going on the water with them. That's my plan. So thank you so much for the honor. Congratulations to everyone who has participated in making today happen. It looks glorious, and I hope everyone has a wonderful time.
Now, I don't know if Jody needs an introduction at all, but we're going to give him one anyway. Jody, you've served our mayor and our community as a town councillor, and for the last 10 plus years as our mayor. We honor you today, sir, for your service and your leadership. Would you welcome His Worship Mayor Jody Davis?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank Luke Bedard and Michelle Malashewski for doing all the hard work and leading everyone through this wonderful beginning to the next segment of Terrace Bay's history. It's been the last 2.5 years. It's been a very difficult time for everybody, and this committee over here worked through it, and I got nothing but praise and congratulations for a job well done. And also, I'd like to give a thanks to John Hall and his team and administration. Administration makes council look good. If they do their jobs well and we give them a little bit of direction and what we're passing, they bring the community together, their workforce and their people, and we are lucky in Terrace Bay to have a wonderful crew of administrators and employees through all our services. So thank you very much to those people too. What I want to take you through right now is a little bit of the last 25 years in Terrace Bay. Been lots of downs and some ups. I mean, I remember way back in the late 90s, the mill was going through some trying times, and we went through an ownership change. And after that, we went through a downsizing. And then after that, we went through 2 more ownership changes with 2 prolonged periods of unemployment. The mill was shut down. And that was around 2012, the present owner took over. Around 2010, under the guidance of Mayor Mike King, we began revitalizing the downtown and making the lighthouse, just to get the town going again and get the spirit going, and trying to bring up, after we went through our first strategic plan, a new direction for Terrace Bay, looking for what we could do to attract people to come and live here and visit here. And that's why we built the lighthouse and revitalized the downtown. shortly after that, we went and we had an opportunity to buy an old school, a vacant school. And with that, with government funding, we made our center down there. And we got a brand new library, and state of the art, and it still looks good. And so if you get a chance, those that haven't seen the library, please go and visit the library. Also, we turned the gym into a hall and built a professional kitchen so we could cook meals in there. And the other part was really important is we had our first senior center built and formed that. The seniors were really looking for a home, and we provided them, through their help, with a nice home that has many things to do in there for seniors and seniors activities. And that enabled the seniors to get involved and help the community in so many different ways, like us having lunches and suppers, and also assisting in things around town, like parking, running the parking facilities when we have the drag races, and much more. So I'd like to thank all the volunteers, especially the seniors, for the contributions that they paid back to our community. But now, what's the future like? Well, Terrace Bay is moving along fine. We have next year there'll be some things happening that I can't talk about right now, but they should be happening. Some shovels in the ground about a couple of things, and new business opportunities. And just recently we were visited by a bunch of people representing cruise ships, and we've all heard about how they're going into Thunder Bay. Well, now they're looking at coming down to this area and see what we can offer to them and those high-end cruise ships, and from possibility to visiting the old town of Jackfish, and coming into town and see our lovely beach and the township that we got in our falls, and also maybe even going out to the Slate Island. So there's new possibilities opening up in Terrace Bay, so it's a pretty bright future. And the last thing I'd really like to talk about is volunteers. When I go back to, I come up from Scarborough, I was born and raised here, and my wife and I moved here when we were 25 and built a house. And Scarborough was always a small community that had a lot of spirit and heart, because their community depended on them doing things. CPR was not known to get involved in the community, and that's a community. Scriber's always had a good community spirit. In Terrace Bay, whether we like it or not, we were a company town. It was built out of the wilderness by Kimberly Clark, and Kimberly Clark built most of the facilities in this town, from a hospital to a hotel to a lot of this downtown area to the rec center they were involved in. In the late 70s, they got out of that, and I'm not blaming them for that. But for the next 30 years, we had to evolve from a company town into a community. And I think that's where we're at now. We are a community. And to be a community, we need the participation of the people in the community, and that makes us good. And I'm proud to say that we have a great community that volunteers, and I'll give a couple examples that have just happened over the last few years. Our ski hill is a thriving little ski hill that has ups and downs due to the weather, but that's all volunteer run. The only money the town puts in for is some paid employees that have to be paid because they got to do maintenance work, and a few other people. The most recent one that I think is really a good example, and we have the hockey and those other ones, is our golf club. Our golf club is probably just doing well, and it looks great, and nothing but praises from people that come and play there or just visit it on the way to the beach. In our golf club, we have one paid employee. That's a summer student. All the rest of the people are volunteers, and whether they're in the executive or whether they're coming down at 4 or 6 in the morning and cutting the greens or rolling the greens or cutting the fairways, that's volunteer based. So we have no problem in the town office, or the council has no problem of helping them out and move along and to be successful, because their success helps Terrace Bay be a success. And that's what I really urge all the people in Terrace Bay, young, old, if you're able, if you want to see this town stay a great place and even get better, get involved. It's your community. I'm very proud that you have done so much so lately, so much, and there's more to come. So, and even just recently, the last one I'd like to talk about is recently, the girls that, seeing how busy our staff were getting us ready, just some girls got together, and I'm being told they planted the flowers around the downtown area, and they took care of that. So boy, that makes me feel good. And the last example I got, I was in Ottawa earlier this week, and when I came back, my wife said she had a phone call from a lady in Saskatchewan that had just passed through Terrace Bay. So they were busy, so they couldn't stay very long. But they went to the rec center, our town office, and they walked in and they looked how clean it was, how organized it was, and all the photos and the Sports Wall of Fame. And they phoned my wife when they got to Saskatchewan. I think they were phoning me, I don't know. But anyhow, they were impressed. They loved it, and they're coming back as soon as they can. That's the presence and the way we treat people. We're going to get more people coming back and talking about the good things that Terrace Bay and the North Shore has to happen. So let's keep up the good work, and thank you very much for this committee for putting everything on. You've made me proud.
Thank you, Jody. We did our land acknowledgement earlier, and Terrace Bay is proud and excited to welcome from Pace Plat First Nations, Raymond Goodchild. Would you come and share with us today?
Well, I'm very happy to be here today. I'd like to recognize the Township of Mayor and Council and our ministers, MPs from Ontario and Canada. Thank you. I'd like to say happy anniversary, Terrace Bay. I remember going to high school here. I remember working in the mill. I remember going to the hospital. The more we work together, I think the better this town will grow, you know. If we all work together, we'll succeed in this world, I think. That's how I look at it. And I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to do a smudge ceremony. One of the things I always like to talk about is the water, right? We got to take care of this water. That big lake out there is our livelihood, you know? It gives us fishing, everything, you know? So I thank you very much, you know? I'll do a little ceremony. I'll pray in the east, the south, and the west, and the north. Thank you. Wabanon is east. Shawnigan is south. Naguapalan is west. Kuwaitan north. So I bless this ceremony, and I bless you people that we work together in harmony and compassion and united together. Miigwech. We've been working together with the towns, and it's very healthy for all of us. Miigwech.
Well, I'm honored today to have one of our very own residents, Gail Gold Johnson, to come recite a poem that she has written specifically and specially for the 75th anniversary. Would you welcome Gail today?
Hello everybody, and welcome all the visitors back who are former residents here, and everybody who is here today to enjoy all the ceremonies of the 75th anniversary. The poem I wrote, I was inspired to write just thinking about the 75th anniversary and the people who were here in the very beginnings, and most of them are no longer with us. So I decided to research what it was like back then, to just give me an idea and to share with you what it was like back then in comparison to what we have now. It's called Terrace Bay is 75. In 1947, Terrace Bay came to be. It had great potential and opportunity. Cut out of the vast wilderness, it was the place to be for those seeking jobs, some with families. This one industry town was planned with the mill site determined in advance. With a bright future in mind, this was the perfect chance. The land had already been surveyed. A construction crew was in place, an area that provided housing in a designated space. Construction of long-lac pulp and paper had a planned design that started with a clear vision with this location in mind. Hydro put in a dam where water was diverted, followed by a generating station. The work would be well worth it. First known as Black Siding, the town's name was changed to Terrace Bay. It clearly described this location and all that it portrayed. A place with gravel and sand, terraces, and indigenous rock. A beautiful forested area where globally workers flocked. Mostly jack pine and spruce were cut, floated downstream in booms to the mill, then on a conveyor into the plant with hardly any spills. Now in the mill for processing, the wood was debarked and cut into small chips that played a very big part. Then cooked, separated it into cellulose fiber, washed, screened, and bleached. It was no small job either. Resembling cotton balls, the pulp was dried, cut, and baled, then sent down the lines by rail. The mill was taken over by Kimberly Clark. Upgrades were done. They had made their mark. The company changed hands a few times since. In their careers, workers had a very firm grip. The mill closed for a while. They did not know what was in store. Then Burla took over this mill, located on the North Shore. Boones had been out of the picture. They were gone for quite some time. The wood came into the bush, now using trucks and the rail line. After processing the pulp, with hard work and lots of skill, the mill construction was underway. Some things were already in place, like the bank and the recreation center, where they had created space. Church services were held in there. A lot of people came. 2 different denominations where Christianity was proclaimed. In 1947, a Hudson Bay store was put in place. A post office, a grocery store was beginning to fill up all the space. In the winter, a curling rink was set up, outdoors with 2 sheets of ice, a hockey rink, a skating rink made for an active life. A friendly group of people. It's still like that today. Togetherness is important to highlight every day. Other things were in the center. It held a library in one of the rooms. A wedding ceremony was even held in the building for a happy bride and groom. A place to have drinks, a theater is still there. Even dances took place. While music blared. The company knew what they were doing when they provided this facility. Somewhere to go and unwind, a structure with suitability. Back then there was even a Terrace Bay News. I am sure it was covered and got great reviews. A fire hall was set up on the grounds, policing, and a hospital too. The company was good to their workers. They were a well cared for crew. Terrace Bay was building up. Homes for the mill workers were supplied. They were built in sections, now on Pine Street, Laurier, and Hudson Drive. They needed to have a lot. More workers were coming in for the jobs that were being sought. The mostly 1.5-story homes were heated with coal or wood, complete with hydro, water, and sewer. They were very solid and good. By 1948, about 230 homes had been built around this town. Some trees were left there for beauty in their natural surround. That same year, Hotel Terrace was built, overlooking Lake Superior. It was most definitely needed and had a very nice interior. Elementary school was held in a few homes on Laurier Avenue then, until a public school was built in 1950, where all the students did attend. Not far away, a Catholic school went up, but not until 1953. This meant smaller classes now. That's the way it had to be. High school students were bused to Scriber until a secondary school came about. The students no longer had to travel on that rough Scriber route. When things were still at South Camp and supplies were running low, mums got together and walked with baby buggies in tow. They got over the tracks safely with a crossing guard there posted. The ladies felt quite safe because they knew he was devoted. Sometimes families went on picnics through trails in the woods. One led to the falls. The long walk was very good. They learned all the do's and memorized the don'ts. If a bear crossed their path, they did what was taught. The Pump House Beach became a popular place where lots of people dropped by. A beautiful spot to go and unwind. Its popularity multiplied. But there were other favorite places for excursions or blueberry picking, treading ever so carefully near the tracks to prevent their pails from tipping. Very few phones were installed yet in the homes, except for those on call, and the mill, of course, needed them, but for others, the need was small. One payphone was available for public access. It was not used very much. Neighbors watched out for each other and always kept in touch. When everybody had phones installed, there were lots more people to call. Way back then, phones had cords resting on tables or attached to a wall. They had a rotary dial on them. They even went through an operator too. Back then, life was different than now, with more challenges to go through. A beautiful community was building up. More roads, homes, and other things coming into play. Businesses were moved to Simcoe Plaza, a central location in Terrace Bay. The community church in 51 was built just down the road. St. Martin's was built beside the school, where the Catholic students were enrolled. A new hospital was built in 51, a more modern one in 1980, named after our first doctor here, who also delivered a lot of babies. Many changes have taken place since then, but I'm not going to elaborate on these things. The main purpose of this poem is to point out what early history did bring. The pioneers worked incredibly hard with limited tools back then, but they never gave up. They carried on, and if they failed, they just tried again. Look around and you will see how Terrace Bay has progressed. What a beautiful place this is to live. For this, we are truly blessed. This town offers a lot for us that some places just cannot. The torch has been passed down over the years. using knowledge from what the pioneers have taught. Let us raise a glass to those from the past. For us, they have paved the way. Let us not forget or carry any regrets how we all got here today.
Thank you, Gail. Just before we close today, I want to invite you at 3 o'clock today to the cenotaph, if you're able to make it across the street, for the unveiling of some plaques that will recognize any veteran who has been a resident, past and present of Terrace Bay. And we invite you to join us as we unveil these names at 3 o'clock today. The moment we've been waiting for. In the year 2000, the township buried this wonderful looking pedestal here, and we call it a time capsule. It almost wasn't here today. In fact, I'm going to throw him under the bus. Luke gave up on us. But Public Works do better. And they kept digging and digging, and one more time they dug and they found the Millennium Time Capsule. And so I'm going to invite our current and former mayors forward today to lift the lid off of our time capsule. So I'm going to move it to the center stage. So I'll step out of the way. As they do this, our committee is really wondering and curious to know if there is indeed a New Kids on the Block poster hiding inside. All right, can we do a drum roll? Anyone know how to do a drum roll? Maybe we can pull something out and see what's actually, there's actually anything in there. We don't know what it is. What's the first thing? It's from a doll from Sydney Thompson.
Chick and Peggy Thompson.
Well, here's what we're going to do. If you haven't been to the curling club yet, our historical team has put together an amazing display. Huge shout out to Emily and to Catherine St. Louis and to Jan McKenzie for all their hard work. Our time capsule findings and treasures will be available for viewing at the curling club throughout the weekend. Thank you so much for joining us here for the 75th anniversary of Terrace Bay. Give yourselves a hand for coming, and thank you so much.